Welcome to the Pillar Podcast, where we put racial equity front and center. Join us as we dissect equity policy, overcoming achievement gaps, and strategies that ensure equitable learning opportunities, experiences, and outcomes for all students.
Welcome to another episode of the Pillar Podcast. I am your host, Ian Brandon, the Satellite Office Supervisor for Jefferson County Public Schools here in Louisville, Kentucky. And today I have all my guests are special, but this one's special. Today I have with me Karen Topping, Principal Topping of Auburndale Elementary. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good. I'm excited for this conversation for a number of reasons. I had the privilege of meeting Principal Topping prior to her current role and at the satellite office. And it was a genuine connection. Like, I had no idea who she was. I don't even remember what you were doing there. If it was a PD or a book study or...
Was
it book study?
Yeah.
And I was like... I remember thinking in my head, like, this lady's all right. Like, I like her. I like her.
Always willing to learn and grow. So
Yeah.
I felt like the satellite office was a great place and experience to do that.
Good. Well, Principal Topping is the principal of Auburndale Elementary School. You were named principal on February 6th of 2023. And prior to this role, you spent, the last 17 years working in JCPS with large population groups, specifically multilingual learners, students with various cultural backgrounds, AP, I'm sure probably a few other roles, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
Happy to have you. I am very happy to have you. You bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to these topics and conversations of diversity. So happy to have you.
Oh, thank you. And I feel very blessed to have just had a myriad of experiences, because I do think it has helped shape who I am as a leader today, that had I not been in a variety of school contexts and been able to work with a lot of diverse backgrounds, that I wouldn't necessarily make the same decisions as I am now had I not had those experiences.
Yeah. So, Dr. Topping, the diversity here at Auburndale is evident, but it wasn't the sole driving force behind your decision to take on the role of principal. I believe there's nearly half your students here are English learners, and roughly 71% identify as non-white. With that, what does this mean implicitly as it relates to cultural identities, experiences, and perspective?
So just to clarify, I don't have my doctorate yet.
Ooh,
I would like to do that at some point, I think, but I do have an education specialist degree, so I want to make sure I don't take credit where credit's not due yet. I haven't done that work. But you're exactly right. The diversity at Auburndale was exactly what I was drawn to, and I don't know if you can fall in love with a pie chart, but I did when I was looking, at what school I felt like would be the best fit for me. And there was just such a great balance of, different demographics that I felt like it would really foster a multicultural, multilingual community. And that has been the heart of my work since being a teacher. So I think that experience from being a fifth grade teacher, when we had a huge influx of Native Somali and the Bantu tribe, and getting to see that experience firsthand in a school context in the microcosm of my classroom, because I remember on the first day of school being able to see that I thought I had all the systems, and my classroom looked beautiful, and the next thing I knew, I had a conflict between two students just erupt out of nowhere. And I had no idea until I really peeled back the layers and got to know my students, that one was Native Somali and one was from the Bantu tribe. And that was a big learning experience for me to go, oh my gosh, this just shows how much cultural humility and knowledge I need to build amongst myself, because I did not know about what was happening in Somalia at that time. So watching a lot of documentaries and just building my knowledge base, from that teaching experience. And then going to Newcomer, which was 100% brand new students. Newcomer is a really amazing asset I think we have within our district and state, that we're able to offer such great services for our newly arrived adolescent learners to JCPS. And then going to Goldsmith, where we had the dual immersion programming. At that time, it was 50% were native Spanish speakers and 50% native English speakers. But I thought just that model in of itself is something we really need to think about and replicate, because a lot of times we see something as something a student has another language ability, but we never get a chance to see it in action and to really learn from them firsthand. And there's nothing more powerful, I think, than a student being able to learn from another student and value that language background. Like, hey, I need to know how to say this in Spanish. Okay, well, I need to know how to say this in English.
Yeah.
Like, hey, those authentic contexts is something that I would love to be able to see grow more within JCPS. I know here at Auburndale, we are really working hard of, building that cross-cultural experience, but we do not have our instruction currently being taught in Spanish half the day. But we do obviously provide language support as necessary and needed. So I think... I don't know if I answered all your questions, but I do know it's in there. Just from the outset, I feel the most comfortable in a diverse setting. And I think if anyone has met me, I don't think I necessarily meet, what you would think of as a typical person, that would feel comfortable in a multicultural, multilingual arena per se, if you just saw me in a lineup. But it feels like home to me.
That's good.
Because I can also just feel like I can be able to advocate and leverage and be able to see and learn so much more in a context like this.
I understand you're a huge advocate for mentoring and professional leadership development. Can you talk a little bit about your Jefferson County Leadership Academy or JCLA experience?
Oh, I would be glad to. I felt extremely blessed to have the opportunity to almost have, it was almost a full year from July until I received, this position here at Auburndale. So from July till February, and to get to hear and see a really veteran principal in action, it was like the dream. When you're wanting to aspire to become a principal, it was like being able to be a part of, this is what the pinnacle could look like. At that time, it was Dr. Handley, so major shout outs to Dr. Handley. But she was in her 17th year as a principal, and being able to kind of be a fly by her side and see her decision making, her intentionality, her strategic planning, almost like the playbook, but you get to see it all put together in years of work to make that happen. It doesn't happen. None of those changes happen overnight. So
it's a process.
I know I'm a fledgling in that start, but then to have the leadership by Faith Stroud, and then also Kimberly Gregory was my coach, and their direct support to pull us out, to just give us those need to know things that you don't necessarily get as an AP, like talking through what a budget might look like, talking about SBDM. There were so many district staff that I think I was also able to build relationships with before I got this role, because relationships matter. And I think
So
it's
important.
it's something that we can't discount. And as a new principal now, I have an ending gratitude for anyone who has offered any support to me along the way, because what I've also realized is you can't do this alone. As much as I want to take responsibility and think I got it, I need it.
Yeah.
Like, we all need help and we all need support, because the job and the work that we're doing is really hard. And it's also very influential. So every decision we make is not just impacting me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's impacting our entire school community. So I always remember the quote, with great power comes great responsibility. And I feel that. And I feel like that internship was a really pivotal point in helping me build that foundation of understanding what that responsibility, what that role looks like and feels like, and just asking some of those questions that I wouldn't have been privy to as an assistant principal.
So when I came in this morning, I felt, well, first of all, I was greeted.
Yay.
Right? I felt welcomed. I felt good, right? Given your experience, right, with JCLA, and just your experience in different roles, different school communities, in the seat you're sitting now, what kinds of trainings do you encourage your administrators and teachers to participate in? Because we're talking climate, well, I'm talking climate and culture, right?
Yes.
And I felt it when I walked in, and I know that's not something that happens overnight. But I would imagine a leader with your lens would encourage your team to continuously develop and train, given the population that you serve here.
Yes. Well, what I have to give also a lot of credit to is our positive behavior intervention support, PBIS is what we call it at JCPS team, because when I came on board in February, they had already recognized the need that we needed some common area expectations. We needed some school-wide systems that could just enhance the school environment for our kids. But we also know those adult behaviors directly impact our students. So they truly have been the champions of the work. When they came to me, they asked if they could start this committee, and I absolutely said, yes, please. Yes, please. Let's get this started. And even throughout this school year, they have been meeting on their own.
Nice.
They pull together on their own after school, hearing collective input. We have grade level representation. We have administrators on there. Like, it is a true grassroots effort, and it shows, I think, the power within our Auburndale school community of wanting to really make this a warm, inclusive environment. So I'm not going to take credit definitely for that work, because it's been a collective buy-in. But I think what I've been able to also bring especially here in the front office, to just, like you said, that first entry point is critical. So making sure that we have all language line access and opportunity. I'm thankful for the Office of Multilingual Learners because they gave us a Pocket Talk to try out, and we have an iPad that we can have direct access to any family that walks in to be able to just ask them very quickly, hey, it's nice to see you. What language do you speak? And we have what language do you speak on a card that goes directly next to it.
Awesome.
So then they can just point and select the language of need, and we can start that communication right then and there. So they know the expectation is regardless of language background, you're going to be serviced
Yep.
at the same amount of time, response time, as any other family that walks in.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. As I know you're still new in this role, but I'm interested to know, through the lens of a multicultural leader, right? What was your first obtainable goal here at Auburndale?
So, there were lots. There were lots. There were some organizational things too that was like, okay, we gotta, make sure staffing and those logistical things do impact. So I had to first kind of clear those things out of the way. But then I thought my first kind of entry point of getting to know our families would be the orientations. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to reframe like a back to school bash vibe. We did have a back to school bash, but in tandem with that, I offered caregiver orientations by grade level. Okay. And for kindergarten, when they came for kindergarten camp, I met with each of those kindergarten families separately. So I thought that was a good way for the community to get to know me. And then at each of those caregiver orientations, I had figured out which languages those families would need support with. So I had interpreters ready to greet them, and I had the headsets ready for those families to attain, so that while I was giving them that information, they were also able to have it translated in real time. So they would have all of that back to, beginning of school. Is a bear to go through all of that needed, student enrollment form and health form and home language survey if necessary, community eligibility form. There's just so much for our families to do at the beginning of the year. I feel like that was one thing that was a success of just making sure that those lines of communication were established and that they were supported, and it wasn't just like, here's a folder of stuff, send it back by next week.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Call me if you have any questions.
Good luck with that, because we just asked you to, it feels like write a dissertation without any guidance, or like, why am I filling out this form? Because the community eligibility form is always one that is hard to really pull back the layers as to like, why do you need to know all my salary and income? But obviously we need that at the school level to be able to substantiate while we're receiving some federal funding and to be able to provide the services that we do here at school. So I was able to showcase to them, like, here's what we're able to provide because of that funding. So if you don't fill out this form, then we won't have these services. So being able to pull that up and be transparent, like, we're not just getting you to fill out a form or to be nosy, because when I looked at it first, I was like, ooh, you don't need to know that. So I think that's my start, but I still think that has opportunities for like further tweaking and development. I might, because we do have such a large Hispanic Latino population, think about that differently at the start of this school year, of having just a separate evening just for them, to be able to come as a community, and to be able to hear in first language, a presentation, as opposed to having to have that translation, because that does take time.
I was just thinking that,
Yeah.
like, that is such a intentional, well thought out, and caring gesture to sit with families one-on-one, right? Especially being at the principal level. Like, that checks so many boxes for me. No matter the population, right? Like, getting one-on-one time with the person that's leading this school community, for me, I know 99% of things come from top down, right? And if I'm coming into a school community, this is a new school, everything's new, and the top, most people want to have a complaint. You want to go straight to the top, right?
Absolutely.
Where's your manager, or where's your boss, but
Yes.
right out of the gate, that first interaction is with someone at the top, pouring that much energy and thought. You build relation, and we were talking prior to the start of this about how important relationships are, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's something a lot of us take for granted, making connections and building common ground with people, right? I don't know, I just love that. I love that. Can you talk a little bit about some of the obstacles you have faced let's do one obstacle for just being a principal, right? A challenge or obstacle, but also one that's specific to leading with that multicultural lens.
Okay, so I would say a challenge for me, because it's hard for me to extrapolate who I am as a person versus who I am as a leader and as an educator, because I think they're so deeply entwined. So I know who I am as a person, and I like to have things pretty organized and lined out, and knowing what's happening not only by the next minute, the next hour, by the end of the week, by next week, by the end of next month. Like, I am a very planned, systematic thinker and processor. What I've learned as a leader is that, especially now, that there's a lot of flexibility that's needed and necessary, that you may have had this one plan, but now it's nuanced into something else, and it needed to. So constantly readjusting, still having that goal or that end vision in sight, but constantly just tweaking, revising, changing, to be responsive to your school community, and any need that presents itself that maybe you weren't anticipating when you originally developed the plan. And I think that's something that's really helped me grow and stretch. I feel like I've been stretched quite a bit of being like, okay, you thought you had this. This is what's happening today.
Right.
Yes. And I think having some, I guess, confidence in just the decisions that I make, of knowing kind of what's at the heart, has really helped me kind of navigate to be like, it's okay if it didn't go exactly the way you wanted, because you still accomplished the end goal.
Right.
So I've had to let go. I might have a little bit of perfectionism, just a little. So having to let go of that, I think, has definitely empowered me to be a better leader throughout the course of this year thus far.
So I'm interested. I know a couple things, but I'm interested to learn more about some of the equity and inclusion work that you led or were a part of prior to this role?
Okay. Yeah, let me think on that one. I'm not sure how far you want to go back. As I was going to say, going all the way back to really from being a teacher of needing to take that own self-assessment and knowledge. I hadn't worked with an ESL teacher before, so I leaned on her really heavy as a first year, like literally green, brand new, and teaching 5th grade, and half of my student population are either Somali, Native Somali, or Bantu tribe, and I have one student learning the American Revolution, while I have another student who only speaks Mai. It's not a it's only a spoken language, not a written language. So while I'm talking about American Revolution, I'm pointing to the letter A, and making sure that student is making that connection.
Yep.
And so I was just trying to figure out how many ways can I embed this language development early on, and trying to go to who I had thought, would have the best experience with that ESL teacher. But she was only one ESL teacher in, the entire building, but as much as I can learn and grow from her. So that was my own kind of like grassroots effort to get to know and learn myself. And then from Wilkerson going to Newcomer, I think it just further instilled in me my advocacy for making sure everyone has access and opportunity. We were at that time when I first started, we were set in different satellite locations, and I'd worked in a comprehensive school setting. Mm-hmm. So I had that background of, this usually happens, or this should happen. Why is it not happening here?
Yeah.
How do we get that? How do we make that happen here? Just with what services were being provided to our students, and just the range of programming that you take for granted, I guess, once you're in a comprehensive school. You just think everyone's got it.
Everyone's like that, yeah.
But we didn't. So really, there wasn't any, tangible professional development or work, I would say, during newcomer experience that I was doing, besides really learning and growing from that community and getting to know the context of working in those different satellite locations. And then when we were able to consolidate to one building location, starting to think about how could we make that feel more like home. Mm-hmm. And we did have that as a theme of our global homecoming. I know, Gwen, you'll remember that. I think that was one of your favorite ones, of making that a theme and having our students connect with a project-based learning opportunity of what does home mean to them, and being able to truly celebrate the backgrounds that they were bringing. And then at Goldsmith, being able to see the dual immersion programming. I worked very closely, with that department of really working in tandem, and I was really looking forward to developing the curriculum on how we can have ways to progress monitor the language acquisition of our students at each grade level, and then for them to attain that bilingual literacy certificate in 5th grade along with their backpack defense. That was a big dream and big vision, to see kiddos not only get acknowledged for, yes, you speak Spanish, but to be able to have that bilingual certification. And to be able to celebrate that with the families. And I did start, and we piloted the Apple testing to try and, get that initiative started. And I was really looking forward to working with Hawthorne. I didn't get a chance to finish that work, but I was very interested in partnering with them and making that dream come to fruition. Then from Goldsmith, as I mentioned before, from JCLA, I was really blessed to be selected to be a principal intern at Kenwood. And I got to learn, as I already mentioned, from Dr. Hanley, and get to see how she put together a really intentional focus at the beginning of the year with Immigrant Connections, and had the staff go to different sites around the community and get to be immersed. Like things, again, the simple things are, I think, the most impactful. Like, could you go to a grocery in the Somali Mall and find all the items on a grocery list that are not written in English, and then have to ask for help in the Somali Mall? And then can you go shop and like find like the clothing that you need? So it was a really great way for our staff, or see, I'm claiming them, Jill. I'm claiming Kenwood. It was a really great opportunity for her staff to get to feel what it feels like for our families on a daily basis. And we know we can check in and check out, like when we want to be like, okay, I know how to navigate this world. I can switch and be comfortable in a heartbeat. But to know that they live that
every day,
every minute of the day, how they're received in different contexts just feels different. Obviously, if they're in the Somali Mall, it feels different than if they're at the Mall St. Matthews.
It's
right?
a whole different vibe.
A whole different world of like how they're being, perceived and received. That I can only imagine. I can only imagine trying to figure out all of those nuances. So then, I'm trying to think. You're thinking of like work that I've specifically done. Oh gosh, I just now it's coming to me.
It's hitting now.
Multiple things. During COVID, going back to when COVID was when I was at Goldsmith, and I just remember thinking how much we've got to include our families because we have literally been disconnected. So when we had the drive through, like set up stations, that we were able to, have a packet of not only just like supplies and things of that nature, but actually like communication of how their child is doing in each of their content areas, and then any questions that they might have. Because I just think it was hard to really know, like, how were kids attaining any type of learning goals during COVID? Because we were popping on a virtual session and then we're off. But then, like, how is my kid really growing in their capacity in reading or math? So creating actual, like, progress reports, and we translated those as well. So that would open doors and lines of communication with families so that we could offer even additional sessions to families outside of those, allocated times of those virtual meets to check in with those kids and offer extended courses. I don't know.
Listen, I said, I knew some things, but I know you've been about this work for a long time. So I thought it was beneficial for folks to really know, like, highlight these things, right? And of course now, which I love, for new principals, this is the kind of work that has to be displayed, right? Especially looking at certain school communities that principals will be serving, showing your involvement in equity work, showing how you have been an advocate for multicultural families, for diversity, for inclusion. I think it's extremely important. Switching gears a little bit, backpack of success skills, racial equity, climate and culture. You ever heard of those things before?
Yes, I sure hope so.
So, those are obviously our 3 pillars within JCPS. Can you talk a little bit about the importance to the overall success for all students, but specifically our Black and Brown students, that we intentionally and consistently create positive and a more reflective culture and climate for their learning experience?
So when I think about the 3 pillars and the student experience, personally, I think it all boils down or could be distilled down to sense of belonging. Our kiddos first have to feel seen, heard, valued, that they matter in our school communities and context. So I think it starts there. Once that is established, within even the classroom, that teacher really being intentional with how they're designing their instruction so that they can see themselves within the curriculum that's being taught, usage of the art tool, and that intentional planning and backwards design. And when students are able to truly showcase who they are, as I mentioned before about, if kiddos were able to get that bilingual literacy certificate, just how much that fosters a sense of pride, because we're not always able to attain everything a kid can accomplish or student can achieve in a MAP test or any kind of state, standardized test. So I think, the backpack defenses and defenses of learning are really a great way to showcase the other avenues that students can truly shine. What I would love to see additionally is some true leverage points of the gifted and talented areas.
Yes, definitely.
And to see those be included more routinely. That's definitely an area of opportunity for me within our school context that I've set a little bit of a structure for that, but I know it's not nearly to the degree that I would like it to be at this time. But I just know our kids come with so much background and funds of knowledge that have to be revealed in some way. So to me, that's the connecting part of the 3 pillars with the culture and climate, with racial equity, and those defenses of learning. Because that way, when they actually defend their learning, they're showing all areas, not just academic aptitude.
Yeah. And it's, obviously through your work prior to this role and in this role, you are clearly informed of the racial equity policy, but I'm interested to know, in what ways has the district's racial equity policy affirmed you, either as the individual or the multicultural lens leader?
Well, I think as I mentioned, it has to be a part of the fabric of what we're doing. So if you make any decision, it has to be something that is at your forefront. So the racial equity policy, I think, has just given me leverage to stand on, to say, why would you make this decision in this way, to be able to, have something that really spells out and delineates more of the why. especially as you mentioned, our demographics, knowing that we are a majority minority. I cannot lead in the same way potentially another principal may with different, demographics. So with that racial equity policy being in place, it's helping to make sure that we are truly addressing the needs of our community, because our community looks different at each school and school site. So being able to think strategically about how to maximize not only human resources but budgetary resources, and then to see the outcomes of those, and the true leverage points of influence that you can have. I know Dr. Aberly has got to know me quite well with budget, because I do want to be very strategic in every decision that I make, that we can see an outcome. Like what is going to be the return of this investment? And it should match with what our students need and our teachers identify as areas of need, and it under the umbrella of racial equity, because that is our work. And as I mentioned before, I don't feel like you can really disentangle it from anything that we do, because this is our school.
This is it. Yeah, this
is our school. These are our kiddos. These are our most valuable assets within our school community. So we have to be able to be really thoughtful and intentional in every decision that we make.
I have a quote here, and it reads as such: "She has a growth and inclusive mindset, is a good communicator, and believes that all students have the ability to perform at high academic levels." That was said about you. Do you know who said that?
No. No, but
that was Dr. Lamisa Marks Johns. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. Forgive me. At the time, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary School Zone 1.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Kind of speechless. I'm yeah.
And I did a little recon on you. I did a little history lesson. And when I read that, for the amount of time that I have known you and seen your works and heard things about you, it rings true. It rings true. Related to that quote, I want to focus in on the last part, the ability to perform at high academic levels. What do you feel we need to do to ensure all students are performing at high academic levels? And in that, is there a place where you feel or believe we're missing the mark as a district?
So I think the start for me, to be able to make sure our students are performing at high academic levels, comes with our expectations. And I think the reason why I'm so passionate about really seeing kids for what they are and what they can accomplish is because had I not had a school setting or a school environment where I was pushed to think differently and that I could achieve, then I'm not sure where I would be today. So as a personal context, my dad wasn't able to read. He dropped out of school in 5th grade. My mom just finished high school. But I knew basically from 5th grade on, I was on my own when it comes to school.
Yeah.
And there was not a lot of, I guess, coaching on trying to basically have a career per se. When I graduated from high school, I remember telling my dad, because my dad, still to this day, he has passed, but he is my hero. He is absolutely my hero. But I remember just anyone that has a parent, you want to please.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
a really important part.
It is.
Being a child, I think, is you want to please your parent, and you just want them to feel proud of what you've done and what you've accomplished. And I remember telling him when I graduated that I wanted to go to college. And to see his face dropped. I think most people, when their kid says you want to go to college, it's like cheers and fanfare, where you want to go, let's go on college visits. All of those things. It was not. It was a disappointing thing to him, which broke my heart, because I wanted nothing but to, please him. But his dream for me was to work at Ford, like he did. And he did an amazing job, and I don't think I could have. I still don't think I could work at Ford. Let me put that out there. For the amount of time he did, he was 35 years. He was on the assembly line. And I got to job shadow him before, so I got to see firsthand the work that he did and have utmost respect for what he was able to do for our family. But I just knew that wasn't necessarily my path. And then my mom also, her goal in life was to be a homemaker. She never worked outside of the home. And I think she still struggles that I'm a principal, but she's like, you did what today? I'm like, yeah, Mom, girls can do that. We can do that. It's okay. You work, There's a lot of stereotypes that are hard to uncover and keep going past. To be like, yeah, Mom, we can do this. So I think because of my lived experience as a kid, and knowing once I got to high school, my high school experience was what really changed me, because it was a very empowering school community where they did push you and they did say, where do you want to go to college? And I could see that I could achieve, and I was constantly challenged to say, hey, Karen, try this math class, try this, do this, because I think we could get you, on a faster track. And that you're capable. But had I only stayed in the microcosm of my family, the expectations just weren't there. So I think that's what I want to be able to provide to every kid that comes in our doors, is that you can achieve whatever it is that you are passionate about and really want to make a difference in the world for. So I think it's really my lived experience, and now I think that's probably where I get the most feisty, is if someone is like, oh no, they can't do that, or the word can't. Yeah. It is something that is a point of contention for me, and I've also noticed that certain students, unfortunately, based on bias and just our own experiences, that we may go ahead and start curtailing what we think they can achieve.
Yeah. That's frustrating.
And when I see that's probably the hardest thing for me, to not be very careful on how I approach those conversations, because I'm so passionate about it of no. We cannot talk about students that way, and we can't already at especially elementary level be making any decisions about what they can or cannot do.
Yeah. I could not agree more. It's the first experience. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it starts with belief. So that's what I'm really trying to instill and push upon is a belief that, yes, it is possible. For our kiddos this year, before winter break, I thought all of our kids deserve some type of gift, regardless of, holiday background or anything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give them a gift, and my gift was belief in themselves. And I had a class of, shirt, and it wasn't by high school. I did get some pushback. Everyone's like, it should be their high school. It should be high school. No, I wanted their college year.
Yeah.
Now,
I like
based
that.
on my own experience, I guess people are like, oh yeah, well you're just of privilege, and that's why you're saying college. No, I'm not. I'm not saying that that's something that's an easy path per se, but I'm saying it is possible.
It's possible. Yeah.
And we can't also be limiting. For our kids when we may not do that necessarily for our own kids. And I try to, obviously think of every kid within our school community as, what would I want for like my kid? Well, then this kid definitely deserves that too. Yeah.
You got to plant that seed. And I love that, the college year. Because even if at home, right, student A is getting that push, that encouragement, that strategy on, hey, here's how you navigate through school. Here's how you get to this end goal. It's college. Or if it's student B who receives none of it, I think, or a limited version of that, just knowing, right, like, oh, college, it's possible. And sometimes, I don't know, I think that's all you really need. And then along the way, that seed gets watered. But I think, I love that at the elementary level, like, yeah. Because it can be asked, like, what year is that? Oh, the year I'm going to graduate college. Whether you believe it or not, at this point,
Right.
One final question, and I'm going to let you get back to your daily duties as a phenomenal principal. You kind of touched on your hero, right? Is there anyone else, personally or in the field of education, who has inspired you to do the work that you're doing?
I think I've learned so much from so many. That's. I would have to go back to my first principal, Rena Gratz. Being able to work with her and being able to see, because at that time, I was a teacher when she was becoming our principal, and to see her vision for what you could truly do to help leverage a school community, climate, culture, and instruction all together. And I just really thank her for giving me the opportunity and belief, because I did not have any background, and at that time there wasn't assistant principals at the elementary level, but it just so happened that that became became an option. But because I was originally thinking that I would have to go from being a teacher directly to becoming a principal.
That's a big jump.
Yes, especially I can't imagine that now. I just can't even process that for anyone, because I'm not sure that's the ride you want to take. I just really valued just the guidance that she provided to me, because I also grew from within, and the challenges that can bring when you're once a colleague and now you're a supervisor, and how to just try and navigate those waters as best as possible and still be able to lead with the heart and the passion that you are wanting to accomplish. But I think she really helped me see full scope and gave me a lot of encouragement and opportunity. Like she let me go, which is really exciting, especially as a aspiring leader and then becoming her assistant principal, to be able to see that someone would give me that much trust. It meant a lot, and I think it helped build my confidence in many of the future roles that you heard me state, that I could go to another school setting and be fine, because I think she established such a good foundation of what it takes, all the components of becoming a leader, of personal, professional skill sets, dispositions. And let me try all sorts of leadership opportunities,
like first-hand experience.
Yes,
awesome.
Yes. So I've had a lot of principals, obviously along the way that have helped coach and helped guide me, and it's hard. It's hard to narrow, but I would guess Rena Gratz, I think, would be my hero at this point, just for seeing the possibility in what I could do, and then giving me the chance to showcase what I could do.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I have truly enjoyed our conversations. I'll say plural. But I really appreciate what you're doing here at Auburndale, the work you have done, and I know the work you're going to continue. And just for taking a moment out of your day. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't believe you reached out to me. I was like, oh, wait, you want to talk to me?
Yeah.
What about? I'm not sure you got the right person.
Why not you?
Not sure if I meet the criteria to be on your podcast.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I was super thankful that you gave me this chance. So thank you.
Thank you.